You're listening to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health.
It only takes one step, twist, or crunch to know something doesn't feel right. Essentia Health's orthopedic and sports medicine team gets you back to doing what you love with commitment, resilience, intention. We're here to keep you moving forward. Visit essentiahealth.org to learn more about orthopedics and sports medicine, like nowhere else.
Hello and welcome to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health. I'm your host, Matt Wellens, the Bulldogs hockey beat reporter at the News Tribune.
And I'm Zach Schneider, the television voice of UMD Hockey on My Nine Sports.
Joining us on the podcast this week is the hero of last Friday's come-from-behind 2-1 victory for the UMD women's hockey team at Bemidji State. She's a former BSU Beaver herself. Welcome to the podcast, UMD fifth-year senior wing, Reece Hunt.
Thank you.
So, Reece, you transferred to UMD this offseason after playing 4 seasons at Bemidji State. Graduated with a business degree, right?
Yeah.
And what was it that I asked you at this at the press conference last week. What's the graduate degree you're working on here now at UMD?
It's like a master's in professional studies.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like, what does that entail? What does it do?
It's more of like, you can kind of take it any route you choose. It's like individual kind of work, but more just looking into like the higher level of like your degree. So I'm like more focusing on like advertising and like HR and yeah.
Okay. You're also a former captain of the Beavers. We asked you about it before, you went back to Sanford Center, what it was going to be like going back there. We're a couple days now removed from the series. Listeners will be catching this about almost a week after that series. But what was it like actually being back there, playing your former team, being in that visitor side? What was that weekend like for you?
Yeah, it was challenging for sure. I said to the girls, I felt like I kind of had some like imposter syndrome, like I wasn't supposed to be there. More like mentally challenging, I think. Just like warm-ups even were hard, like first puck drop. It was just definitely weird. But definitely good to see like a lot of our old fans, people I had connected with over the years. And then getting the 2 wins, like that was great. We needed that. So yeah, it was unnatural, but happy it's over with, and it wasn't as bad as I was maybe expecting.
That was alumni weekend there too, right? Like, did that add to any of this, or did that maybe help the comfort of the return a bit?
There was honestly not a lot of alumni showed up. I think they had done like something a couple weekends ago, so it wasn't quite the turnout I think they'd hoped for, but it was nice to see a couple girls that I had played with in the past. Yeah, so that was great. It definitely wasn't like an added pressure or anything, which I was a bit nervous about, but if anything, it was great to see some older players.
Did you and Emma exchange looks in it? Because she's another former Beaver. She had played there. She had just got done coaching there before coming to UMD. It had to be an interesting experience for her as well.
Totally, yeah. She was going through it just as much as I was. Our first practice on Thursday, just after practice, we had like sat on the ice, I think talked for like 10 minutes, just like reminiscing, but also focusing on what was next and just how to go about it. So super lucky to have her with me. And I'm sure it was equally as challenging and weird for her. And I think a lot of the alumni that were around were more her age. So she got to see some old friends. But yeah.
What was a more weird experience, being back at Sanford Center in a UMD uniform, playing against your old team, or just the first time being part of a practice or being part of a game and being on the home side at Amsoil Arena?
Hard to say. I think like a mix of both. Like watching film before, it was weird. Like I'd catch myself watching like BSU thinking like I was on BSU, or like Thursday in practice we were doing power play and I like went to change on power play and I changed on our home bench because like that was just routine, and then coach's like wrong bench, so I had to like rip over to the other bench. So I think just like little things that I got accustomed to that were different. Even being in the visitors locker room was weird. Not being allowed to like go down our normal hallway in Bemidji. So it's just like so many little things that were different. But
were you in any of the video clips that coach showed from last year leading up to the game?
Yeah. When we did power play scout video, I was on the half wall on the power play at Bemidji. So that was kind of funny seeing that. But
yeah, something you don't have to worry about this year is this player on the half wall.
Yeah, that was her exact words. They're like, 29's not on there anymore, so don't worry about that back door.
I was going back before we were recording this, listening to Coach Kroll's presser after Friday's game. And she had mentioned it seemed like Bemidji came out with some fire, possibly because you and Emma were on that opposite bench. Did you notice like an extra pep in their step in that game Friday with them taking on the two of you?
Yeah, definitely probably just some added motivation. We had talked a lot about how it was going to be like an emotionally high weekend for them and Emma and I, but mostly for them, and like that's just going to motivate them. So definitely felt it on Friday. And even after they got that first goal, I was saying they were riding a little high and like definitely frustrating for me. But just even every time I had the puck, I just felt like an extra amount of pressure, like some chirps here and there. But yeah, definitely some extra.
So Clara Van Weeren gets a tying goal late there after you guys fall behind 1-0. You then go and get the game-winning goal, which is like, we can't script it any better, I think, than that. If you're a Bulldog, I should say. If you're a Beaver, maybe not so much. If you're a Beavers fan and listening to this podcast, thank you so much. I appreciate your dedication to college hockey. Did any part of you feel bad after you scored that goal on Friday? What are your feelings when you score that game-winning goal against your former team?
Definitely did not feel bad. If anything, like a little sense of kind of relief. I think it was just such a scary game. The whole time I was just shaking in my boots. So I think just to like, after Claire got that first one, we kind of like rested a bit, like chilled out. And then just to get that last one just honestly felt really good.
You haven't been on the other side super long. You've been here through the off season and through training camp and now the first part of the regular season. But compare the feelings, I guess, now that you have at UMD going into a series like that versus at Bemidji State, because when Matt mentions that Bemidji comes out in the first period on Friday, fired up and ready to go, that seems to be the Bemidji that we've come to expect, especially when they play UMD. And you were on the other side of that where, and we don't want to disrespect other programs in the WCHA, but UMD's for a long time been part of that upper echelon with Wisconsin, Minnesota, now Ohio State joining it. And whenever you can get a win against one of those programs, it feels like you're taking another step toward maybe joining them and getting to an NCAA tournament or things like that. You were on the Bemidji side of that for so long, and now you're on the UMD side. Compare those teams, the experiences you've had on different sides of this rivalry.
Yeah, I think there's some similarities. Like at Bemidji, we never wanted to like think we were out of any game. Just like at Duluth, we don't want to overlook anyone. So just trying to stay like even keel, I think that's pretty similar. It was funny like having heard what Coach was saying about Bemidji, like, oh, they're always going to come out hard. They're going to be chippy. They're going to be dirty. So like to think that was me last year and they're probably saying the same things was a bit funny. But yeah, they definitely, I think they played to their identity, Bemidji. Like they were hard to play against. They were dirty and gritty and blocking shots. Like they didn't make our lives easy. So that was something that I had brought last year and I knew that they would bring us.
I was going to say, at any point when Coach is talking about that, did you want to be like, speak up and go like, no, we were not. That wasn't.
No, yeah, there was, for sure. There was like some things that are like, oh, they're going to block every shot. And I'm like, are they though? Like, did we block every shot? But no, it was just funny hearing that side of it.
Has UMD then, on the flip side of that coin, has UMD now lived up to the identity that you and Bemidji State had built up in those series for the last 4 years when you played against them? Has it been everything that you expected, or has there been some, oh, we thought they did this and now they're doing it this way, or has it been kind of what you expected?
Oh, yeah, I think totally what I expected. Like, whenever we played Duluth, we knew they were very, like, disciplined, systematic. And I think coming here, that's what I've come to learn is, like, we are based on systems and, like, we take what the great game plan the coaches give us and, like, we really try to play to that. And I think that's what sets us apart is, like, we are systematic and, like, we have that in place. So, yeah, I think that has been similar. Like, I've seen that. Otherwise, I think Duluth was always like a challenging team to play against. Like they're really, again, disciplined in their defensive zone. So, and I'd say we are very. So yeah, definitely like it's the same from what I've seen the last 4 years.
I kind of want to go through your hockey path from, through Bemidji and UMD. First, tell us about your hometown, Nelson, British Columbia. What was it like growing up there and playing hockey, and how'd you end up getting involved in college hockey here and at Bemidji State? Yeah,
Nelson is just like a small little kind of granola hippie town. Hockey's not like their main sport, like a big soccer town. But we definitely had hockey, and my older brothers both played growing up. So I think it was just like routine that I was going to play. No women's league though, like growing up. So I played with boys until about Bantam, I think. and then had to travel. So then I moved to Trail, which is like an hour away, and I played grade 9 and 10 there, and then ended up moving to Penticton to play my grade 11 and 12 year at Okanagan Hockey Academy.
How'd you end up at Bemidji State then?
We would just have showcases every year at OHA, and Bemidji coaches would always come down. And just like I grew great connections with the coaches, and I think that was like the main thing was the coaching staff.
Jim Scanlon's always seemed like a fun, at least for the media. He's usually a pretty fun guy to interact with. I don't think he liked my question at WCHA Media Day when I asked for some insight on you and Emma, but like Jim's still a nice enough guy that, you know, he said, I want to talk about my team, but he still talked like very briefly about you and Emma. And Jim's just always been a good guy, at least for, again, the media to interact with. What was he like playing for as a coach? He's
honestly a saint. Like, I have nothing but respect for him. I think he's had a challenging like last few years, but he like sticks with it. He showed Bemidji how committed he was to the program. And yeah, I have nothing bad to say about him. He's been great. I'm sure he wanted to talk about his own team during that question. But yeah, he's great. Which is interesting because I know Jim, former colleague in our company, Forum Communications, Jack Hittinger, big Detroit Tigers fan. I do remember Jim always anxious to take a shot at the Tigers when the Twins beat him there. But I guess hockey, he wants to stick to his own team. Yeah. No, Jim's been he's a fun guy to work with and such. What was the transfer process like for you? Because Jim is a passionate guy, and I could maybe sense he might have been a little hurt, and I know it's been tough on his program. He's lost some pretty good players to other schools here. You know, a lot of the fifth years looking to go somewhere else, whether it's for playing or academic reasons and such. What was that transfer process like for you, leaving Bemidji State and coming to Duluth, or just looking around in general? Yeah, I think it was challenging for me too. Like, I never wanted to. Like, I was very loyal to Bemidji, so it was hard thinking about going somewhere else. But I think it's a bit different for a fifth year. They didn't really have a master's program for me, so it was inevitable that I just couldn't stay there. So I had to go elsewhere. And he actually helped me a lot throughout the process. So I went in the portal a little earlier than most girls just because I didn't have an option to fall back on. And yeah, he would give me insights on programs, coaches, and what he had thought to an extent. He didn't love to talk about it too much, but yeah, he was helpful through it. And Amber Fricklin, who's now on staff, was like a big part of me going in the transfer portal and actually coming to UMD. So it was weird for sure, but I think girls understood, and I know the coaching staff was like supportive of it. What was it about UMD the second time around then that kind of caught your eye? Obviously, you're very familiar with the entire WCHA, but what made you want to be in Duluth after that process? Again, I just think like the connections I had with the coaches, I had a lot of trust in them, and like we just had great conversations. And I had known Nina before, and she had nothing but like great things to say. So I think when you have a current player who has great things to say about a program, that means and goes a long ways. And then just like Duluth's identity, like playing against them, like I always respected them, respected the staff, and like I knew they were a great program. And I knew the expectations were high, and that was something I was looking for. So it was just kind of like a perfect fit. Was it Nina that we asked about, Reece, earlier in the podcast season? We asked a couple of your teammates. I'm blanking on who they were, but they were on an episode, and we asked about that transfer process when somebody comes from another team and somebody like you who maybe they've had some run-ins with before, people that have been here. What was that like for you? What were the relationships like when you got here? And now you're very much, I think, even now getting to know you a little bit more that you're in Duluth, but when we watched you play at Bemidji State, it's very much a player that you love to have on your team, but hate when she's on the other team. It seems to be your identity. So now that you're on the UMD side of things, was that a pretty seamless transition, or did there have to be some bridges mended the first day of practice? No, thankfully, like with Duluth, I didn't have too many burnt bridges. Like I was pretty good with all of them. Definitely like opinions of girls have changed. Like even me playing against girls, I'm like, oh, this girl, or like, I know Ashton Bell and I always used to battle on the ice, and I was just like, oh, this girl. But now, like, knowing her, she's the kindest, nicest human being. So it's, like, funny seeing the girls' real personalities. But no, they've been like so kind to me coming in, and definitely no like animosity or anything like that.
Yeah, I think Ashton Bell, when I think of like on ice personality versus off ice personality, that might be one of the more like she can be a nasty player on the ice.
100%.
But right, but yeah, off the ice, kind, gentle, we always say she's, cowgirl from out there on the prairie of Canada and such. And you said Nina, you knew Nina. Is that from playing on Team BC together? And I'm wondering, like, in this process, do you reach out to Nina first, or does she reach out to you? And do you just connect? How does that work?
I think Nina and I have just kept in touch like over the past 4 years. So it wasn't something like I had to reach out to her and talk. It was just like kind of an ongoing conversation about options for my 5th year. And so, yeah, that definitely helped having her here. But probably more of me reaching out about it initially. But yeah, she was super helpful throughout the process and like could kind of be a good communicator between us all. So it's good.
Were there teams you had to rule out because you're like, man, I don't think I can play with that player. Like, we just got into it way too much. And you don't have to say the player. Maybe you don't even have to say the team. Don't even want to say the team. But like, did you kind of have to rule out some programs for that reason?
I wouldn't say rule out completely, but there was some where I was like, probably wouldn't be the best fit if I'd gone to that school. But yeah, my options were open, but definitely some I wasn't super keen on.
How many schools did reach out to you when your name hit the portal? What's that like? It has to almost probably more schools. Is it more schools than when you're initially recruited? I feel like maybe, it's more slowly schools coming in when you're being recruited out of high school and stuff before college. But the transfer portal, it had to be just a wave. Yeah,
it was crazy. Like when I went in there the first day, immediately I started hearing from schools. And I think that was also because I went in so early. So it was like I was one of the first people in the portal. But I would say maybe like 15 different schools. So it's kind of like going through the same process again of like seeing what programs schools had. But Duluth was definitely like always in my top like 2 probably.
How much different is it, if you can remember, from the time you got recruited to Bemidji State, before college, coming in as a freshman, to when you got recruited by some of these schools and had these conversations as a transfer player? Because it feels like transfer players are older, they're established, the teams know what they're getting, whereas a freshman maybe comes in and the team sees the raw talent and wants to mold them into their system. But it feels like Maura Kroll and her staff knew what they were getting with you, and they wanted you on the team for a reason. Is that, kind of more, just come in and be exactly who you were at Bemidji State, more so than, we want to try to get you to fit in exactly in the role we think?
Yeah, I think a little bit. And just like having the experience in the league, I think was something big. So like I played against, those top 5 teams like Wisconsin, Ohio. So I think that was nice for them. But like, as for the process, I felt it was similar for like talking to coaches, but like instead of my parents say reaching out when I was in grade 12 or however, whenever I committed, it was like more me doing the communicating. And I'd say conversations were easier just because maybe I am older and like it's more of a business now, kind of like your 5th year. But yeah, like similar and different. And then as for coaching staff, I think I didn't honestly know where I'd be placed in the lineup, but they seemed confident with me coming here, and I just trusted them in that, and I think I've been lucky.
It feels like maybe it's system, maybe it's, the line mates that you have, maybe it's just you being another year older and experienced in the league, but the offensive opportunity was talked about a lot through the preseason, and now through 8 games, it seems to have gone pretty well for you, especially compared to some of the stats that you put up at Bemidji State. But I think Maura was pretty clear about that they expected the offensive upside for you to really start to take off this year based on where they could put you compared to your time at Bemidji State. Was that attractive too? I mean, do you like the, being more offensive, whereas at Bemidji State, I think it was a lot, you were in that agitator role, you're on the power play, scoring some goals, but it was kind of a mix of both bags.
Yeah, I think it was like, say, coming from high school, like I was probably more of an offensive player, like goal scorer. And then going to Bemidji, maybe our first 1 to like freshman, sophomore year, I was still kind of in that role. But then come my junior and senior year, it was a lot of like defensive hockey. Like I had to become more like gritty block shots, which I wouldn't say was like my total identity coming in. But I think that's also like helped round me as a player, like work on my defensive game. and definitely something like continue to work on. But it is nice being able to play more offense. And like, I think my line mates are just that I've gotten to play with here are incredible. And like, they definitely help make that so enjoyable and allow us to play more offense. So that's been something super fun, is playing with some great hockey players. But yeah, it's been good.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more with Reece Hunt. You're listening to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health.
Greetings from Northlandia, a place to bring your curiosity, because here you will find curiosities. Whether it's a look inside the Northern Rail Train Car Inn or an introduction to Duluth's musical roboticist, Robot Rickshaw, we celebrate the region's distinctive people, places, and history. Each week, I'm joined by my fellow reporters who share the unique and fascinating stories that they discover while exploring the Northland. You can find new episodes of the Northlandia podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Join us along this journey and discover the extraordinary stories that you just might miss if you're not in the right place at the right time, ready to step off the beaten path with no rush to return, here in Northlandia.
Hi, I'm Maria Lockwood, a reporter with the Superior Telegram. Explore Superior and Douglas County history with me on Archive Dive, a monthly podcast available at superiortelegram.com or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome back to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine. They're proud to be the team physicians for the UMD Bulldogs and provide sports medicine care to more than 25,000 student athletes in the community to ensure they can compete at the highest level while protecting their long-term health and athletic futures. Thanks to Essentia Health for their support of the Bulldog Insider Podcast. I'm Matt Wellens, along with my co-host Zach Schneider and our guest this week, Reece Hunt. I'm bringing back a game that we started the season with. Zach, you weren't here for it. That was a plan, so you didn't stop me from trying to introduce a new game or anything like that, since you sometimes aren't a fan of the games I come up with.
I just think that you're mean to our guests, but we'll see what questions you ask.
Okay.
He's going to put you on the spot.
I think I was kinder on this one. I'm done antagonizing the coaching staff. But that's because the one person, it was specifically geared towards one coach who's now at a different school.
Yeah.
Because we knew she listened every week.
Right.
And then she'd get fired up.
Yeah. Probably can't antagonize Harvard.
She still listens, apparently. So maybe we still can antagonize Harvard if we want to. We'll see week to week. The game is called Start, Bench, Cut. And there's a less family-friendly name of this as well. But I've seen it on sports social media. So the starter, your starting is like the star, your favorite. I'm going to give you three options.
Okay.
The starter is like the star. That's your favorite option. Bench is you keep it for later. You're not getting rid of. You're keeping it around. And cut is we're getting rid of.
Okay.
We're going to start with PWHL team names that are being proposed. Okay. Have you been following what's going on with the PWHL, Reece?
Yeah, I've heard them.
Yeah. I got a text while I'm in the air on the way to Ithaca over the weekend, and it's just, did you see this? And as a reporter, that scares you, like, oh no, what happened? And it was just someone who was fired up about these team names because they're interesting. Let's start with
one word for it.
Yeah.
I see both sides.
She might cut all three of these for all these. Let's start with the Canadian teams. Toronto Torch, Montreal Echo, Ottawa Alert.
Oh, gosh. Okay. I think, Ottawa Alert. What was it?
Start, bench, cut.
Okay. I think we have to cut Ottawa.
Ottawa, yeah, that one was bad. We had Gabby Hughes and Ashton Bell on our last episode, and they thought that they might not do team names at all this season, and they'd just be PWHL Ottawa.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's awful. Then they came out with Ottawa Alert, and now I think PWHL Ottawa is a major upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah, unconfirmed reports that Gabby and Ashton have both requested trades since our last episode. But.
Yeah, I haven't heard what Ashton has to say about it, actually. Okay, cut Ottawa. What was the other one?
Toronto Torch.
And
Montreal Echo.
Bench Echo. And what was the third one?
Start the Torch.
Start the Torch.
You just picked what's the lesser of the evils of these three?
Yeah, like Toronto Torch, it kind of rolls off the tongue nice, but it's just
like that one you can maybe stomach. I'm surprised there's Montreal Echo. No, we're not going anything French. them at all.
I think the names are unique and like interesting, so I appreciate that from them.
Yeah.
And I think like in 20 years when we're saying these team names, like we're not going to think anything of it. So it's like what did we think about the like Colorado Avalanche? Like maybe we thought that was weird when it first came out, you know? So I'm trying to play devil's advocate a little bit because I see both sides.
I see it. Yeah.
I'm with you.
You're right. We may not. I think I'm like looking for like at least Avalanche somewhat like it's Colorado, even though most of that state's actually flat. But anyways, Colorado Avalanche, like at least there's a tie to that.
Yeah,
that
you're right.
state.
You're right.
Like I'm not sure what the tie.
Yeah,
is.
we need ties.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Now the next, there's a tie on the U.S.
The U.S. teams have a slightly more of a tie than the Canadian teams.
Yeah. The U.S. teams: Minnesota Superior,
Yeah.
Boston Wicked, and the New York Sound.
Okay. I think we're gonna start with Minnesota.
Okay.
I don't mind that one.
Yeah, I think that's one that like initially everyone's like, oh, that's weird. It sounded like, Minnesota Superior, like someone thought Superior, Wisconsin was a Minnesota. But that might be one that you said like 10, 15 years from now.
Yeah.
It just like everyone's used to it.
Yeah. And then I'd say bench Boston.
Okay.
And cut New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
But would you say the U.S. team names are better than the Canadian team names?
I would.
Yeah.
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 Yes.
UMD jerseys, white, yellow, and maroon.
Love the yellows. So start with the yellows. Also like the maroon. Bench maroon, cut whites.
Cut the white. Okay.
Love them all.
Zach, what would you do on those three?
I really like the whites, but
Do
that's
you?
probably because I see them more than anything else.
Yeah.
I don't love the yellows, to be honest with you. The players all love the yellows.
I just think, I wouldn't say they're as clean as like the white or maroon, but they're just like cool.
Yeah, maybe it's
unique.
because I'm old. And I just the
More
traditional
old school.
white,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, so
but
I
the
think
kids like the yellow.
I think
with the flashy.
I think I'm starting the maroon. I love the script on there.
Yeah.
Also, one of our best photos that Clint Austin ever got at the News Tribune is Gabby Hughes popping the maroon jersey at Ritter there in that NCAA regional final. I think I'm benching the yellows and then cutting the whites.
Really, nobody's a fan of the whites.
It's not that I'm not a fan of the whites; they're pretty good. I just like the uniqueness of the yellows. Like they just pop.
Yeah,
it's
I
like
agree.
Bemidji's greens. I'm a big fan of Bemidji's green.
But that's a
Green
classic. That's
that
not
is
like
a
a
classic.
third. That's their color, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we don't really.
so-
They didn't have a third, but I was like pleasantly surprised with all our. Not surprised, but like I love our jerseys, and our colors.
There have been
Like,
some
they're
people
great.
in this program who are very dedicated to jersey fashion.
Yeah.
Former associate coach Laura Bellamy, big jersey fan, and then Nick Bryant, also big into to jersey design.
Honestly, the WCHA has some really good uniforms. I mean, just thinking about it now, both home and away jerseys, I think that top to bottom, the league is pretty good.
Yeah, I'd agree.
minus the All Blacks that Ohio State once put out and got penalized for.
They brought them back this weekend.
Yeah, but I think they had to
would.
change. I think now they're out. There's some outlining because at one time it was black numbers and names on black jerseys.
Honestly, even without the blacks, if you did a 1 through 8 ranking of the WCHA jerseys, Ohio State might be 7 or 8, even in their classics.
Right.
I mean, that's just in my opinion.
Yeah.
Other people would have different ones, but top to bottom, it's a really good jersey league. I don't know if I've
agree.
ever thought about it as
No,
a whole.
so true comparative to other leagues for sure.
We're gonna go NHL teams in Western Canada: Vancouver Canucks, Calgary Flames, Edmonton Oilers.
Well, start Calgary.
Okay.
Of course. Bench Edmonton, cut Vancouver.
Cut Vancouver.
Yeah.
And you're starting Calgary because your older brother Dryden, he's playing for Calgary right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you a Vancouver Canucks fan growing up? Or-
Yeah, growing up for sure. That was our team.
But
our
now
family's team.
they're
I
dead
just
to
think
you.
I like Edmonton and Calgary better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last one on this game, then we'll do some quick hits here. NHL teams your older brother has played for recently. I think these are the first 3 teams I
few.
grabbed here. There's a few. He's Dryden's gotten around the NHL, collected some jerseys
Seems
here.
to be a Hunt family tradition to switch teams.
Yeah, so true.
We'll go with these 3: Florida Panthers, Arizona Coyotes, New York Rangers. He's also played for Colorado, Toronto, and now Calgary. But I think these are the
Do you
3
want me to
teams.
like rank them or
Yeah.
just the 3?
Yeah, just the 3: Florida,
Florida, Arizona, New York.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say New York, we're going to start.
Okay.
I went and visited him a few times there, and it was just so cool.
Got to watch him play at
Yeah,
Madison
watch
Square
him play.
Garden.
He got like a lot of opportunity there. So New York start. Arizona bench, I'd say.
Okay.
I went and visited him there for Christmas. We spent Christmas together because it was during COVID. Couldn't leave the country. So that was special. And then...
Nice to go someplace.
Yeah.
It was nice to have him
It
someplace.
was okay. Arizona was fine.
Yeah, it was fine. Not a bad place to spend Christmas.
Yeah. And then cut Florida.
Cut Florida Panthers. Okay.
Yeah.
See, this is why this game is dangerous, because now Dryden's agent has to call Florida next time he's
didn't
up
mean
and apologize for this podcast, Matt. So
Oh, I'm going to get in trouble.
no, Matt's going to get in trouble.
Where, if you had to rank them, where would like Colorado and Toronto? Calgary's at number 1 right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Calgary's number 1. Like him and his wife live there.
Okay.
That's where they summer.
Yep.
And like we have so much family there. So that's definitely
Yeah,
one.
yeah. And Calgary looks beautiful. And again, Ashton Bell, Instagram, one of my
Yeah.
favorite follows. Calgary looks like a beautiful area too.
Yeah.
especially in the
Super
summer.
nice area. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for sure them number 1. And then Toronto was fun just because like he played for Toronto. That was super
Yeah.
cool. And like my dad lives in Toronto. So that was super nice for him.
Okay, cool.
Being close. And then Colorado, it was just like too short, but cool program.
He wasn't there long. But
yeah. Not long enough.
Yeah. I'm a fan of Colorado.
Okay.
Big fan of, not the Avalanche, just the state. That's like
Yeah.
my favorite trips are out there when I'm following the men around. All right, some quick hits. If you could start a PWHL expansion team, where would it be?
Calgary.
Calgary?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Location wouldn't be great, far away, but like, I just think it's a great hub.
I think it has to be like... I felt like Calgary and Minnesota. I know they were trying to consolidate the league in the Northeast, but like Calgary's like the home of the women's national team.
Yeah, we got to get Dryden to push it.
Dryden
Let's
to push
Yeah.
Well,
it.
they got to go that direction next.
I agree.
I mean, they
They
whether
have
it's in
to.
the States or Canada, they have to go that direction.
Yes.
Going to talk Dryden into investing into professional women's
I have told
hockey.
him, like, you need to do something with where you are.
Who would be your first pick in a PWHL fantasy draft? You're doing a fantasy hockey team for PWHL, which I'm thinking, Zach, we might need to start. We might have to get some people together and
that'd be
start
fun.
a PWHL fantasy league, a Bulldog Insider PWHL fantasy.
I think
league
I'm
when that
taking
gets going.
Ev.
You're taking,
Ev, our goalie.
oh,
Yeah. Is that what you mean? Like from the Bulldogs currently?
well, no, I was going to say, like, if you're playing a fantasy hockey team, like
People
which
in the
current,
league right
current
now.
player.
Oh, in the P-Dub.
In the P-Dub right now.
But
Oh.
Ev would be your number 1 overall
Ev
pick
would be a
if you
number
were
one.
starting
Yeah,
a
number 1
team?
overall.
Okay.
Ev would be an,
Yeah, she's there.
I think that's a safe bet that Ev will be a number 1 overall pick,
I'm
which
sure
she's done
she
here.
will be one day. Yes.
Yeah. Who would you take currently in the P-Dub?
Who would I take? Such a good question. Maybe like Ashton. I'll take Ashton.
Take Ashton.
Solid D.
Yeah.
Great
yeah.
girl.
You're going to pick up a lot of points on the blue line there.
Yeah.
Do you have Bemidji teammates? And forgive me for not having this research done. Do you have teammates that you play with in Bemidji that are playing? Do you know of?
Yeah,
Couple of them?
Claire DeGeorge. I don't know
Okay.
if that name rings
Yep.
a bell.
Yep.
We were line mates my freshman year. She got drafted.
Okay.
Yeah. To Minnesota, I believe. But I think that's it.
If you could pick any PWHL city to play in next season, if you could pick your destination, where would you go? Based solely on city. See, I'm trying to not get her in trouble right here. Just solely on like, this would be a fun city to go to.
Maybe Toronto.
Toronto?
Yeah.
Okay. Current teammate who would make a good referee once their playing career is over.
Probably like MK.
Mary Kate,
Mary Kate, yeah.
Yeah.
She's just in mini games, she's all over the rules, and she's a rule follower. She's intense. She can hold her own. She'd be good.
what are the unique rules of the mini game that you need someone hounding you on for?
Or like if pucks go out, she'll be like new puck. Or if coach is throwing a puck prematurely, she'll be like too soon. I don't know. Just like little things that don't mean much, but she gets intense over it.
Well, see, that's the player in the future they need to throw a letter on. They need to start thinking a little bit about that when you're naming captains. Like,
She'll have one.
She'll argue the rule book. She'll start pulling out sections and such with the officials. All right, Reece, that's all we got. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast this week. This was great having you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to this week's Bulldog Insider Podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe and rate us. For more Bulldogs hockey coverage, visit DuluthNewsTribune.com/Bulldog Insider. Subscribe to gain access to all of our coverage all season long. Thanks to our sponsor, Essentia Health, for their continued support of the Bulldog Insider Podcast. And again, thanks to all of you for listening each week, especially if you're Beavers fan as I spill water on Zach. We'll wrap it up there and catch you next week.